Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Chainlink, its valuation against Bitcoin, against Ethereum, and against USD. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've been following Link for a while, right? We started talking about it at $1 to $2. It went to $20, FOMO, greed, delusion, and then a crash back down to $7. And one of the things we've said before is that we really don't know how Link will behave when Bitcoin is in a bull market, right? We know how it behaves when Bitcoin is in a bear market, and when Bitcoin is in an accumulation phase, it tends to just continue to gain against it. We said we're not sure if Bitcoin's going up. Will it be able to maintain this exponential growth forever, because it has to continue to go up so quickly that it has to continue to significantly outperform Bitcoin, which of course is hard to do if Bitcoin's going up 10x in a couple years itself, okay? So where are we now? Well, if you look at the Link Bitcoin valuation, this is a Link Bitcoin valuation color-coded by risk, logarithmic scale, you guys know the drill. We've been in this area before, okay? We've been in this area 2 times before. In December of 2017, which was near the end of the Bitcoin bull run, right? We know the Bitcoin peaked on December 17th of 2017. The crypto market as a whole capitulated about 4 weeks later in mid-January or so. And it was during that brief window where Link saw a pretty significant move. Another significant move happened starting in summer of 2018, when we also reached a risk level around this current area, if not slightly above where we currently are. And you can see that we ultimately went on and continued running up much higher. Clearly, this is not on the same trend that we've been seeing for the last 2.5 years. Clearly, something here looks a little bit different, okay? Now, one of the things we can look at is the Link Bitcoin risk on the secondary y-axis, okay? So the price of Link in terms of its Link Bitcoin valuation is on the primary y-axis, logarithmic scale. The risk, which is this color coordination here, is now on the secondary y-axis, and it's the yellow line, okay? So you notice we've had 3 major peaks all around between the 0.9 to 1 risk level. Okay, these are the 3 major peaks that Link has had against Bitcoin. And they've also been spaced. This one was around 500 something days. This one was around 400 something days. From peak to peak here was around 200%. From peak to peak here was around 300%. Okay, so, and we see that the time between this peak and this peak was longer than between this one and this one. Again, this is the Link Bitcoin valuation. Now, historically, for the last over a year now, we were using this as where it would theoretically bounce back up. However, during this time, Bitcoin was never in a confirmed bull market. It had not held the 20-week moving average as support in like 2 or 3 years, and it was mostly just in bear market accumulation territory. This is the first time where Link is going up against an aggressive Bitcoin. The first time, right? Because since it launched, it was mostly just watching the very end of Bitcoin's bull market, and then kind of moving up on the tail end of that Bitcoin bull market like most altcoins did. Now we've dropped back down. Okay, we've dropped back down. The Link Bitcoin risk is less than 0.3. We've been here before. In the summer of 2018, we were also right around this level. Okay, we've been lower. You can see that the risk went all the way down here at one point. So we could drop lower. There's nothing necessarily precluding us from dropping lower, and later in the video we'll talk about some ways that could happen. We could drop lower, okay? We just want to reiterate, though, that these things happen within crypto. We've seen these types of things before. No one really knows where the bottom is. Maybe the bottom's already in. No one knows where the next future top will be, if there will be one. But again, it's the risk you take. So if you are holding Link and it does perform well again, remember these times when people tell you you're lucky, you say, no luck involved. This is the Link USD risk. Okay, it looks a little bit better because I think a lot of people actually are fairly okay with their Link position right now because most people think of it in terms of USD. But again, it's important to think of these things in terms of their Bitcoin valuations because you want to justify holding them because they will outperform Bitcoin at various times. And Link has outperformed Bitcoin. If you look over the last couple years, it has drastically outperformed Bitcoin. It just does it when Bitcoin's not when Bitcoin's not outperforming. One of the reasons the main reason that I hold Link honestly has nothing to do with any of the fundamental factors, which I'm sure that will upset some people, and I'm sorry, but not really, right? The main reason I hold Link is because it tends to move. Its negative volatility is offset by Bitcoin's positive volatility, but the reverse is also true. So when we said this, when Link was moving, it was great because negative Bitcoin volatility or lack of volatility was being offset by Link's positive volatility. Link was going through the roof, Bitcoin was more or less sitting humdrum, and because of that, everyone was ecstatic about Link because they're saying, okay, well, look, Bitcoin's not doing anything, Link's going up 100x, Link, 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 Link. And at the time, it was great, right? Because a lot of people probably have positions in Bitcoin smaller than what they probably should have in order to theoretically match what their risk tolerance is. But when Link is going up like crazy, of course, it makes sense. Right? That's where the money should be, theoretically speaking. But again, it's important to talk about risk-adjusted returns, and I do hold a much larger stack of Bitcoin than I do Chainlink, right? Much larger. But with that said, if we take a pragmatic look at the Link USD risk, we've had 3 major peaks as well. Here, here, and here. And after the first one, we dropped all the way down. All the way down here. After the second one, we ultimately dropped down as well, but it took us a while. You can see the time between this peak and when we surpassed the peak from January of 2018 to July of 2019. This was 18 months. From this peak to when we surpassed it was about 6 months. From July to January, 6 or 7 months. 7 months or so. But then we know the March crash happened and we ultimately went lower, and then we ultimately later continued higher. So is there anything precluding Link from dropping further against USD and against Bitcoin? No, it could drop further. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm just trying to give you guys my interpretation of the markets. None of this is financial advice. Could it drop lower? Of course it could. But if you were moving into Link during these phases, right? Yes, there's a lot of volatility, but you don't care about that, right? You don't get out of bed for that. Who cares? Wait for this. You never chase a pump. And I guarantee you, in my opinion, you never chase a pump. And I guarantee you, if Link does pump again one day, there's going to be people saying, I wish I bought more, right? I wish I bought more. I wish I saw the opportunity for what it was. Now, we know that this could extend a while longer, potentially. Here is the risk on the secondary y-axis. So again, 3 major peaks. However, the Link USD bottom is all the way down here, theoretically speaking. We hit 0.3 back earlier in March. Currently, we're just above 0.5, okay? I only buy Link below a Link USD risk of 0.5. I only buy it below it. If it's above it, I simply do not buy it, okay? It doesn't matter what the market conditions might imply. It doesn't matter if I think it's going to go up or not. If it's above 0.5 risk, I do not buy it. It's now above 0.5. I'm not buying it anymore, but you can rest assured I did pick some back up between $7 and $11. I think my highest buy was actually close to $12, but I started buying it around $7.30. Again, I sold $18.50 was the highest I sold. Started buying it around $7.30. I've bought as high as around almost $12 now. So my cost basis, I believe, is around 8 or 9. And at this point, I'm not buying it anymore. The risk is a little bit too high for me. But I do have a stack of it, and I will hold on to it until there's another parabolic move. If there's not, eventually I might have, eventually we'll see what happens. But if there's a parabolic move, I'll start selling. And if not, then it'll be continued DCAing until we get back above 0.5 risk, okay? Now, this chart for those who think that Bitcoin outperforms Link, first of all, we will give Bitcoin pay its respect. Bitcoin, its ROI, its first market cycle, is essentially not matched by anything. Okay? So when we talk about Link ROI and Bitcoin ROI, it's not a fair comparison to necessarily measure it from some random date, right? It's not fair because you're measuring the market cap of something that's so much higher than Link. It's going to take more volume to move it. It's not a fair comparison. But for the people saying that Link has not outperformed Bitcoin, a simple chart will show you, as measured from November of 9th of 2017, since inception here of Link, it's up a lot more than Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin since then is up about 4.5x or so. Link, this is 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x, 50x, 60x. Since November of 2017, Link is up 60x in USD. So to say that Bitcoin is outperforming it is nothing more, in my opinion, than recency bias, right? It's nothing more than recency bias. It's even forgetting that Link did a 10x earlier this year and did a 10x this year already, which Bitcoin has not even done a 10x this year. It's gotten close, right? And which is really significant considering its market cap. But again, Link has had a pretty impressive 2020. Hopefully 2021 will have even more in store for us. This shows the price of Link color-coded by whether Bitcoin is above or below its 20-week moving average. Okay, that's all it is. It's just the data, the cold hard data, nothing else. Color-coded red when Bitcoin's above the 20-week, color-coded yellow when it's below. When Bitcoin is above it, Link does really well when it first gets above it, right? Bitcoin gets above it. Well, this was at launch. Bitcoin was already above it, but 10x almost, about 10x. Bitcoin gets above it, almost a 10x, not quite. Bitcoin got above it here. It was moving up just like it had the other time. Pandemic hit, March crash. Put it on hold for a little bit more time to accumulate. Bitcoin gets back above the 20-week, parabolic move, another 10x, business as usual. But so far, Bitcoin has not dropped below the 20-week moving average. This is the first time in its history that Link has gone parabolic, and Bitcoin has not, at this point, has still not dropped below its 20-week. It doesn't mean it won't, and if it does, then there's a good chance that Link will, there'll be a lot of negative volatility there. But at the same time, this is a pretty nice trend, right? I mean, if you were to just show someone this chart, and you would say, you showed them what has happened historically. We had a pump and then a dump heading into Bitcoin falling below the 20-week. A pump and then a dump heading into Bitcoin dropping below the 20-week. A pump and then a dump heading into, Bitcoin hasn't fallen below the 20-week. So for all we know, we're still on course, right? It's possible that we move back out of this. I cannot stress enough, though, that the risk is there. There is a lot of risk right now in the market, a ton of risk. Bitcoin is extremely, in my opinion, inflated in the short term. I think it's a $30,000 Bitcoin will ultimately be a really attractive price. But the rate at which we've gotten there makes me wonder how sustainable it is. Okay, I don't know how sustainable a $34,000 Bitcoin is in the short term. And when we talk about that, again, it doesn't mean it can't go higher. Bubbles have a way of extending further than we can ever imagine. So it could easily continue this run. If it does, Bitcoin will outperform Link probably. But if Bitcoin volatility just stops for a bit, right, then maybe that'll give Link the momentum it needs. This shows the Link Bitcoin valuation when Bitcoin is above its 20-week. Again, above it, it does well against Bitcoin. But it also does well against it when it's below it. It is generally just moved up. This is the first time that Bitcoin has been in a bull market, a sustainable one so far, since inception of Link. And so far, it has trended down. Hopefully, we have a strong rebound and continue up. But we simply do not know yet. If Bitcoin continues this run and goes to 40K, 50K, or higher in the short term, then we would expect this to continue to drop back down. This is one of my favorite charts. It shows on a logarithmic scale, and better than a logarithmic scale, a log-log scale. So not only is the ROI on a log scale, the days since inception is on a log scale. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link. Look at this Bitcoin run. Amazing. Something to aspire to. Look at Ethereum. Something to aspire to. Look at Link. It's doing very well. Very well so far. And the crazy thing is that it did this during a bear market. Okay, it did this during a bear market. And so if we come back and look at this chart in 2 years or 3 years, do you think, and this is something you have to figure out, do you think it's more likely to have continued on up, or is it going to come back down and not recover? And one possibility is that it could come back down and then trend up later on, right? It could come back down, especially if Bitcoin cools off immediately. It could come back down, and then if Bitcoin's cooled off for a few months, then maybe it'll rally. Maybe it'll rally in the short term because we are theoretically in the range of altcoin season if Bitcoin holds these levels. So as long as Bitcoin holds these levels, altcoins stand the chance to run. If Bitcoin does not hold these levels, then essentially altcoin season will be a very short season. So now we want to switch over to this, okay? We want Bitcoin to hold this level. Now, if you look at the 1-day time frame, this is what we have, okay? Let's zoom out so we get more of this history. This is where Bitcoin is right now, okay? To me, and you guys will, if you follow the link bubble earlier this year, where we were taking profits systematically along the way, right? To me, this looks like some level of a bubble, right? We don't know exactly how high it will go. It could extend higher, or maybe 34.8 is the local top. If it comes back down, does that mean we have to enter a multi-year bear market? No, it does not. We always have the hope of holding the bull market support band, which is the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, which right now are at around 16,700 up to 18,700. So that would be the level we would want to hold for Bitcoin in the event of a dump to maintain the integrity of the bull market. So to me, if you showed me this chart, right? If you didn't tell me it was Bitcoin and you showed me this chart, I would say, okay, looks like we got maybe some smart money coming in. Maybe this is the first sell-off. Institutional money, right? More institutional money. Media phase, right? The media phase going up. If you're not sure of what I'm talking about, it's essentially that textbook bubble chart. Let me see if I have it up. It's this one. So takeoff, first sell-off, bear trap, media attention, enthusiasm, public greed, delusion, new paradigm, denial, return to normal, fear, capitulation, and despair. A lot of us experience this, right, with Link. That move that we saw, right? This is a weekly time frame. Switch it over to daily. And I think it's better seen. I mean, actually, let's switch this back to weekly. I think it's better seen against Bitcoin because really against USD, Link is still holding up fairly well. So if we were to go look at the Link Bitcoin chart, here we are. A pretty significant drop, right? A pretty significant drop. If you switch it to a linear scale to make the narrative complete, it certainly does look like something like that. Okay. But Bitcoin has done this many times and has not precluded it from eventually recovering and continuing on to higher levels. So, going back to Bitcoin, to me, it feels like we are in media phase, media mode. it could go on for weeks, right? Bitcoin could go to 50K potentially, or it could already, the top could already be in. We simply do not know, and I do not claim to know where the top is. I do not know. I have no idea. However, in the short term, if Bitcoin does not immediately crash, then Link has a decent chance to start gaining ground. Okay, it has a decent chance to start gaining ground. If you look at the Bitcoin dominance, we had a peak here in the summer of 2019, September. Maybe a double peak, January. It peaked at over 73%. We're already below 69%. In about 3 days, the Bitcoin dominance has dropped 4%, right? Altcoins are dead until they're not. And everyone will say altcoins are dead and Bitcoin's the way to go. And I generally agree that my majority of my position should always be in Bitcoin. But altcoins are not dead. And if they are dead, as they say, what is dead may never die. So looking at Link, so far it has continued to more or less hold this moving average, the 20 week moving average. Okay. We have had some wicks below and some even candles that have gone below, but more or less it has been able to hold it. You notice that the 20 week is starting to move down a little. The 20 week moving average is at around $12.40. Okay. If we go look at Link Ether, held the 20 week moving average fairly well for a long time. We've now dropped below, but it's not necessarily because Ether USD is capitulating. It's because Ethereum USD is maybe even developing its own bubble, right? And we don't know how high this will go. We simply do not know. Let's switch over to the daily time frame. These parabolic moves are why we're here. They're simply why we're here. Could that have been the top? It's possible. It's possible that was the local top. It's possible that it's nowhere close to the local top, and that Ethereum continues to rally on up to maybe $2,000. Okay, and if it isn't, I mean, we'll chill out for a bit and then continue on. So Link Ether is capitulating mainly because Ether's going up. Okay, because Link is still holding on fairly well at $13.40 or so. It's still holding on. Link Bitcoin, here we are. It's dropped down fairly significantly, right, after holding this level for a long time. So the risk is there. There in the entire asset class of crypto, the risk is relatively high right now. Why? Because if Bitcoin comes crashing back down, most likely the rest of the market's going to come with it. Now, that's what would happen probably in the short term if Bitcoin comes crashing back down. Let's say it comes crashing back down to say like 19K or something, and then it settles around 20K for 3 months. There's nothing keeping Link from rallying at that point. Okay, there's nothing keeping it from rallying at that point potentially, as long as Bitcoin just isn't bleeding profusely for month over month. But as I said, right, if Bitcoin is able to either hold steady for a few weeks, even a slow bleed, if it does something like that, then Link is in business in terms of its USD valuation and probably its Bitcoin valuation. If Bitcoin skyrockets like this and goes to 40, 50K, likely Link's going to lose valuation against Bitcoin. That's likely what would happen. And again, the other thing is if Bitcoin has a catastrophic dump, Link would likely lose valuation against Bitcoin and against USD. So the risk is there. We simply do not know what's going to happen. I do own Link, and it's hard. It's around my third largest holding with the market so volatile right now. Things are moving relatively quickly, but it is still my third largest holding. So we'll see where things take us. Obviously, I would say mostly you need to keep an eye on Bitcoin. Keep an eye on if something like that happens, if the rally continues, or if we can put in some sideways momentum for a while, then maybe that'll give Link the ability to start rallying again itself. One thing to pure speculation, so take it for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth. Pure speculation. Link USD. time between peaks and peak-to-peak ROI. Last thing we're going to cover here. Time between peaks, 532 days, 212%. Time between peaks, 420 days, 316%. So it shortened, the time between peaks shortened, and we saw an increasing ROI. Very different than what we talk about with Bitcoin. So time shortened between peaks, increasing ROI from peak to peak. Now, we're not implying that it will have an increasing ROI from the next peak to the next peak, but if it did, it's fun to speculate. So 500 days, 400 days, let's go to 300 days. Where would 300 days put us? Let's say it is shortening. 300 days, and let's say we go up to 400%. That would put us at $100 by May. Probably not going to happen, right? Probably not going to happen. But if it does, don't ever let anyone tell you got lucky, right? Because you understand the downside risk here that we're all experiencing. So just keep that in mind, and we'll go from there. One last thing, and I'll probably talk about this later too. I know I keep saying one last thing, but I haven't done a link video in a while, and I've gotten a lot of questions, so I just want to cover it. This is an interesting observation. Probably doesn't mean anything. Date between peak to peak, about 558 days or so. Peak to peak, 557. Does it mean anything? Does it mean we're going to come back down? No, it doesn't. We're just noting that the time between that peak and that peak is around 558 days, and between this peak and this peak is also around 558 days. Just something to chew on, not necessarily anything to take to the bank. And the final thing that I will leave you with, as if I haven't said that enough, if I imagine many of you guys buy Bitcoin. So as I've joked before, we have our map of the United States, right? In general, when you buy an asset for Bitcoin, right? Are you buying over here in the top of California, or in Maine and Nova Scotia, coming in at very risky times? Or are you buying in Texas, buying in Florida, maybe South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, right? Maybe in this region, Mississippi, Alabama, that area. I mean, where are you buying? Are you chasing? Are you chasing these things? Or are you getting in when it's time to get in? None of this is financial advice. It's just my simple analysis of the markets. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully this video has been useful to at least someone out there, if not a bit long. If you guys like the content, subscribe. Let's go for 90,000 subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up. Check out the Telegram channel in the description below. Also check out the premium list, which you can find a link to in the description below. You'll get access to the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the trading view indicators, the Telegram alerts, the risk dashboard, a lot of other stuff. Make sure you guys check it out. Pretty crazy times right now. So make sure you stay responsible in the market. Don't bet the family farm. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.